Amok, 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 amok. Oh my god. Bravo. Bravo with everybody involved. This is one of my most anticipated, at least one of my most anticipated movies of this year. Hocus Pocus 2. And of course, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe uh, if you're watching this on YouTube. But check out my spoiler review of Hocus Pocus 1 that I did last Halloween or last October, which I'm pretty sure I mentioned how I thoroughly enjoy that. But man, I was excited, but I was a little worried that not many people might be on board with this movie, considering it's been like nearly 30 years since the original, and most movies, like for example, Dumb and Dumber 2, don't have a good track record of making a quality sequel that uh, that does well after 20 to 30 years after the original. But I think like the recent Top Gun movie and this movie proves that if you get people who have reverence of the original, have a good idea, and not just chucking it out just for like the nostalgia purposes, but actually got something to tell, and people who were part of the original, at least the main crux of actors that was a part of the original coming back, that in combination makes a good sequel no matter the amount of decades that came after. But I thoroughly enjoy this. I just want to put it out there. It's like everybody involved knew the assignment and did their thing, especially the three Sanderson sisters, played by Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, Kathy Najimy. I love these women. It's like they haven't missed a step at all, and their chemistry, you can tell they obviously were friends, but man, their chemistry is like, if you would have told me like Hocus Pocus 1 came out maybe because I was a young kid when I saw the first Hocus Pocus and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and both movies had like this corny charm to it that, God, you just love it. But if you would have told me the Hocus Pocus 1 came out maybe like a few years ago, and this is the sequel that just came out now, I would believe you, because it feels like it doesn't seem like it was like nearly 30 years since the original. Because everybody seems like just like, oh my God, they just went back into, it's like just like riding a bike. They just like, snap back into place. Now, I make sure like I bought this before I did the uh, this review, because I want to eat this right here on screen, because one of the characters that the Sanderson sisters are specifically looking at had like a very like was like the mayor of the town of Salem, and he's just like fiending for candy taffy apple. So I wanted to have like I've been wanting a taffy apple too. I've been thinking about it like for a hot minute, and this movie really wants you to like, because it's kind of like set to my brain almost. It's like, now I want a candy apple. So I should have got some napkins. One second. I don't want to get peanuts everywhere, but here we go. Mm. It's a little hard,
Phrasing?
but after work, I was waiting on the bus stop for a hot minute. I was worrying about this thing like melting, so I put it in the freezer since I got in the house, and I guess it's a little hard, but I gotta wait till it like maybe thaw out a little bit. Mm. Mm. Sorry, I feel like I dropped one. But anyway, just need to take a bite out of that, but think about it all day. So it's a little early, like a day earlier, before October 1st, but I wanted to get the jump on some Halloween videos that I had lined up for reviews. And I just finished my American Psycho review, which is up on the channel. You want to check that out. So Hocus Pocus 2 is like obviously the next one. Okay. Um, this might be blasphemous to some people, but I gotta say, the teenagers involved in this, at least like the main three teenagers, even though one, doesn't jump into like halfway. You see a little bit in the beginning, the first act, but she doesn't really like really has some screen time, real screen time until like towards the back end of Act 2, getting into Act 3. But the teenagers involved in this better than the teenagers in the original, because don't know if I ever brought it up when I did my review of the original Hocus Pocus last year, but the teenagers in that are like, you know, didn't leave. I mean, they kind of left an impact, but it's very mid at best. Because nothing wrong with them, but it's just like they don't. I mean, Zachary Binks have more character to him than the other kids, and it's like mostly just leaning on the fact that the main guy, uh, because it was the '90s, but the guy just like his like main thing was like, oh, he's a virgin. He liked the candle. And you got these like very stereotypical movie bullies, because in the '90s it was like bullies was well, it wasn't just the '90s, '80s, '70s had it obviously, but it's like oh, he's a dork for because in the original he was like a dork by their standards, like, oh, he's a new kid that's beat him up, and it's like, why? It made no sense, but that was like a thing back in the day. Is how like movie bullies were. They're less so now, but dealing with like movies set in high school or middle school kind of thing, you gotta have like your typical bully for the main character or mean girl type of situation, but they could be written smartly. Give them a reason to pick on them instead of just, oh, they pick on them because, oh, you're the main character. You gotta have some kind of like rival or antagonist for no discernible reason. Not that most bullies need a reason to be a bully. Sometimes kids are fucking assholes. But it's just like you gotta at least have your protagonist doing something quirky, embarrassing, or cast the ire of the school bully slash popular kid to warrant them to pick on you. At least that's how I would have written bully characters in a story. Excuse me. So this is like play a little bit better. However, because I didn't go over like the teenagers, Whitney Peak plays Becca, the main lead. Uh, Apparently, because I thought she was just like a black girl, she's Ugandan Canadian actress. Uh, you got Lilia Buckingham as Cassie Trask, who is some kind of like an internet personality. Never seen her before, because it might be like a TikTok kind of situation. I don't have TikTok. I don't care to look at any TikTok bullshit. Belissa Escobedo plays the other friend, Izzy. And you got Sam Richardson as Gilbert, the Salem magic shop that is repurposed from the Sanderson sisters cottage. And then, of course, you got Billy Butcherson is back, played once again by Doug Jones. Tony Hale as Jeffrey Trask, playing like a dual role as like the old Salem priest uh, uh, that caught the ire of the Sanderson sisters back then in old Salem, but he's the mayor in present day. He's probably the one like I really him like I really don't care for, because it seems like a very Disney Channel goofball of an authority figure, which I typically never cared for, because he seems competent, but it's just like a dorky type of competent, if that makes sense. Like it's like you might as well be having like pratfall noises as he walks, because he seems that level of like weird and corny. But then you got Cassie's boyfriend. What's that guy's name? Mike. Actor's name Froy Gutierrez. That kid, if there's any drawback, hi Shishel. If there's any, by the way, this is full spoilers. Like I said, I don't typically do this, but like I wanted to get a jump on this right away because I really want to talk about this, and I didn't, because I got an acting class October 1st, like from 2 to 5, and I'll probably be getting home kind of late, so don't want to will that time to like talk about this because I might be tired. But that kid plays like a not slow, but it's kind of like he's a jock, obviously, but it's kind of like the imbecile, and it kind of reminds me of if you ever seen like what was it, 2016 Christian Wig Ghostbusters, and you have Chris Hemsworth as their secretary. He kind of reminds me of that, because it's okay to have like goofy dumb characters, because that kind of shtick can get pretty funny if written well. But then there's like stupid. It's like too much stupid. It's, like there's a moment where, because I distinctly remember how like Chris Hemsworth was wearing glasses, and like something loud happens, and he starts rubbing his eyes, and it's like okay, everybody else is covering their ears. He's rubbing his eyes, and it's like that's just too fucking stupid. Okay, there's a line. Obviously, even like the Three Stooges aren't that dumb. They will cover their ears when something loud happens. They wouldn't cover some other part of their body because they're not that slow. This kid, why I mention that? Because there's one scene. I just want to briefly talk about this guy because like I'm not going to talk about from the rest of this video. There's one particular scene in the third act when the Sinister Sisters are coming after them because they was chasing him, in particular because it was just because they had to catch these kids. Becca was pointing out to him how like he's a bully. The fact that he always make fun of her and calling her weird and all this other stuff, and he says like, "Oh, I just thought I was making conversation. I have so many people to apologize to." I was like, bruh. And that part, like, it wasn't even funny to me. I don't know how many people got a laugh out of that. That part was probably one part out of the entire movie that I did not laugh at because that was too dumb. And I get it, he looks like a dumb jock, but that's too far. It's like, God, that part kind of like, kind of sucked the energy out of the room slightly. But anyway, Becca is, turning 16, and she always often visits this little this like shop, that was that used to be the cottage of the Sanderson sisters. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. There was like a little pre story before, like a flashback before like the present day, where you see like the young Sanderson sisters who somehow are living on their own. I'm not sure why anybody back then would allow kids to live without any parental figure looking after them. But they got a place, they stay with themselves, but that part was kind of confusing, like, But it's Winifred's 16th birthday, and the priest, the leader of the town, is trying to marry her off to this goofball that she has no interest in, but because of her like blasphemy and attitude, because she's I was a very independent girl of the time. The priest decides to punish her by taking away her sisters, which I was a little worried about this part because Disney, for aside from maybe like Cruella, Disney had like a nasty habit of trying to make bad guys who are supposed to be just bad guys, trying to make them sympathetic and like turn them into good guys. And it's like, God, please don't let this movie end with us turning the Sanderson sisters into heroes or something like that. Please don't do that. They didn't do that, but I was worried because it was like a little smidge of that trying to make us feel bad, which I did feel bad because like, these three are like a very close unit. And so they got this spider to crawl on the Reverend, and he's like freaking out and causing a distraction as they run off into these forbidden woods, and they come across this elder witch that's been known to like, you know, you know, kill kids to take their souls to stay young, played by I never watched Ted Lasso, but I've seen the clips and she's in it. Hannah Whitingham plays this elder witch, or mother witch, and notice Winifred's like are easy to take, or at least like It's kind of like what's the word? Not protege, but she has like she's very adept at magic. Like the book is drawn to her, and so the elder witch, you know, call these three girls, as like a coven, because witches require covens to make them magic powers more powerful. They work best. If you ever watch the Charmed TV shows, it's kind of like that. Their powers like just amplify if they work together. So now they got this book, which the Mother Witch warns not to use this forbidden spell, which unlike Doctor Strange, where you got this magic book with no warning at the beginning of the spell, this one actually has a warning at the beginning of the spell called Magicae Maxima. And I really love the way they are chanting Magicae Maxima, Magicae Maxima. And they're doing it in unison the way they did. I love it. I really do love it. But it's like forbidden because there's a cost to this. Because ever since Doctor Strange 1 was led into like the comic books and became like a mainstay for a lot of magic type of works, that magic has to have a cost to what you're doing. Check out my comic book review of Doctor Strange Way of the Weird / Last Days of Magic, which is up on the YouTube channel if you want to check out that review, which I point out about magic having a cost, and that since that moment, because I don't remember anything prior to that, at least prior to the movie, because I forgot which one came first, the movie or the first movie or the book, but either way, it was because they very close. I'm pretty sure the movie was first, but magic having a cost, because I mentioned in that comic book review that the smaller the magic, the smaller the cost. Like Strange, while he was training with the Ancient One, he was casting spells all week, in which by the end of the week caused him to vomit uncontrollably for hours. And this is just typically like small to mid range kind of like magic, not that powerful, but it's still, there's a cost to it. But the bigger the magic, the bigger the cost. And you see this right here that's kind of like really jarring to me, is that even the book refused to open to that part for Winifred, and Mother Witch points out like, do not use that spell, no matter the circumstances. And so this eventually leads to what happened with, because they went back to the village, they set fire, used the book to cast like a fire spell, set fire to the preacher's house, and they let her grow out to be the legendary Sanderson sisters. Suck the souls from young kids to stay young. That whole thing leading into the first movie. We got all that. Now, present day, you got Becca, who, in this part, I like. It just like, it just kind of like, plot plus right in the middle of this little girly teenager tiff between Cassie and Becca. As we're gonna cut to the chase to why they're at odds with each other, because Cassie got cool, even though she still considered them friends, and she still wants to conclude Becca and Izzy, but there's no communication between them, each other, or at least movie trope. They get interrupted, and nobody just immediately says what they want to say right then and there to avoid confusion and blah blah blah. I never liked that as a movie trope. I really wish they put things like that to rest. They've been played out. There's no originality to it at all, or no twist they put to it at the very least. But no, because like I said, Cass got cool. And then like by the third act, they kind of realization that you should just talk to me like, because I wanted to include you and stuff, but you keep brushing me off, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. And Becca just got a bug up her ass without talking with her friend. So got that part out of the way. Anyway, uh, Becca and Izzy goes to uh, the shop, gets uh, Gilbert uh, to get them some stuff. They get like this little, not incense, but this like round up shrubs or something. I forgot what the word was. They burn that helps cancel out any curses. But he also gives them a black flame candle, which you think it was like a prop because they always do these. Since they were 5, they do these little seance things for fun, every year for Cassie's birthday. They go out in the middle of the woods and do this. This time around, the black flame candle is lit. Becca's, and Izzy are still virgins. Obviously, they're only 16. And then this is probably like the creepiest because like they kind of not obviously are not R-rated. It's not like Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange 2 here, but they kind of broached that line of a bit with giving like a creep factor to these ladies because you hear like Sarah's haunting siren call, the melody, and it's like, okay, fuck this, I'm getting the fuck out of here. But then, since when do the Sanderson sisters fucking teleport? Because like, they pop up like it's like a freaking horror movie, and these girls are trying to run out the woods, and all of a sudden they make a turn, and here comes Sarah, like, boom! And it's like, oh my fuck, Jesus! They make my heart kind of pump, like, holy shit. And then, and this is typical Hocus Pocus fashion. Of course, they get duped by teenagers, even though Winifred points out, like, I ain't fucking with these teenagers anymore. No more. Like, killing teenagers on the fucking spot. Even though, of course, she does not. They get tricked by these girls. It's like, oh, we're your idol, you're idols and stuff like that. Oh, like, oh, we don't, grind up kids' souls anymore. They already come prepackaged, and they take them to like Walgreens, and it's another creepy thing. They go to like aisle 4, and like I love this because this is like a staple, and it's like I love when they walk in unison and go like It's like I love that. I don't know why I loved it. It's a quirky thing, but I freaking adore the way they move because it speaks a lot to the character just by the movement. They don't have to say much. It's like we look at how John Wick moves, and you look how the Sanderson sister move, or you see how like Tony Stark move. They tell you what this character's about without having to verbalize it, and it's like it's like these. You just read all that. You just get that by just body language. I love that. I loved it since the first movie. But then these girls thinking like, oh, we got them distracted. Let's get the heck out of there. And then they turn. Here comes Mary Sanderson. It's like, oh, where are you guys going? It's like, oh no, nowhere. It's like, it's like now they're stuck with them for a minute, and you see them like, like consuming lotions. They thinking it's potions, but called lotions. Oh, it's like and like eating like rejuvenating face mask and stuff like that. It was this entire thing is entirely funny. These women are so funny. Everything they do is just like get a laugh out of me. It's so good. Then you see these, because it's Halloween, you get these 3 girls dressed up because it's like a thing for every Halloween. It's like this always main costumes is always like a consistent costume every year that you see on Halloween. You got Sinister Sisters costumes, You got like Jack Skeleton and his girlfriend. I forgot her name. You know, is blanking on me. Uh, 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 Susie, I think. I could be wrong. Or Sally. You know, Sally. Susie. You got Jack Skeleton and Sally. You got like uh, uh, and you got like Harley Quinn and more often, and sometimes even Poison Ivy if you're doing like a combo, especially. Uh, Usually those are the constants. Just a name off the top of my head. Those are the constants you see every Halloween. But uh, the Simpson sisters see these women coming up to them, these three teenage girls coming up to them, asking for a picture. Now, at first, I was half expecting them to freak out because, like, oh, because maybe they did this in the first one already, so that's why I didn't see it again. But typically, you will, see something like, "Oh, they stealing my soul. The picture's stealing my soul," or nothing. It was nothing like that. Kind of like it better this way. The way it's like, because like they're dressed up all together as because I imagine the actresses love how their characters for all this time since the movie is like a mainstay costume every Halloween. It's the Halloween tentpole for years that a group of three girls every Halloween always dress up like them. So of course they come over asking for a picture, and you'll think they was going like freak out or do us like frighten in the face, but no, they start posing, and it's like oh, it's like yes, yes. Oh my god, I love it. And you see like the filter and everything like that. It's like God, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. I love everything about this right now. And then like of course like Becca comes up with the idea, which is kind of true if you believe in like if you're a Wiccan and stuff like that, or if you ever watch Supernatural or anything like that. Salt repels dark magic or traps ghosts or demons or whatever like that. And so they put salt around them, which blocks or sends like a force field to block any magic sent their way by the witches. And like they kind of like because since they got like a bigger budget, because obviously they believe in the project more so maybe than they did back when the original was coming out, because they didn't know they had it's going to turn to a cult classic. Of obviously they didn't know that. So now these witches not only they freaking teleport all of a sudden everywhere, which they only did that maybe a couple of times out of this entire film, but uh they shooting out lightning through their fingers now. I was like, shit! Like they open their power scale. It's kind of like super. They're kind of like Saiyans, where like they die or nearly die, and they come back refreshed, and their powers evolve. I was like now they shooting fucking lightning bolts out of their fingertips. It's like holy shit! These women are actually a serious threat. If any other director or like Tim Burton or somebody leans into the dark motif, these witches can be freaking scary if they want it to be. So they decide to like take over Salem, and they need like more power, so they don't have to worry about like you know uh, getting the soul of the Virgin that light the candle. So they don't, because that's the smart thing about this. Just like with like, I haven't seen Top Gun yet, but I already know that the story. Will see it? I will see it eventually, but it's not like I seen the first Top Gun years ago as a little kid. It was cool. Uh, I seen it a couple of times. It was cool. Not exactly one of my favorite films, but like I remember it. But you gotta have like a story. Like I said earlier, you gotta have a story to tell if you're doing like not only a sequel, but a sequel decades after the fact. Uh, and it's like you don't want to repeat the same thing, which they did not. It's like okay, instead of doing all that rigmarole, we're going to make the spell, which they have Gilbert, because he actually figured out a way using a book to remake a black candle, causing somebody to light up a black flame because he loves the Sanderson sisters and he has an entire shop dedicated to them. And it's like, this dude should be put in prison because these women could easily have killed a lot of kids, all because he saw them flying through the air as a little kid back in 1993 and was so enthralled. And it's like, dude, it's like you nearly doomed the fucking planet because of your thirstiness. But he had to dig up Billy Butcher because he needed a head of a lover. They needed like the blood of an enemy, which was the descendant of the preacher, which is the mayor now. Which in turn they chose Cassie because that's his daughter. And then these other trinket things. It's not really important. Those are just the key things that's like directly tied to the story. Gilbert fooled Billy into thinking like, oh, I want to kill the Sanderson sisters, so help me gather these materials. But Billy should have obviously known better. And somehow he didn't like go back to death like we initially thought he did in the original movie. He just been just lying there and just lying there. The spell wasn't broken when the sisters died in the first place, and it's like, why not? But after by the end of the movie, he actually moved on. But which, by the way, I want to side tangent. The original teenagers from the first film don't make a return in any capacity here, which part of me wish at least one of them did. Either like, if not the older brother, the younger sister, maybe, just to have that kind of connection. I kind of wish that was the case. Maybe like, because you don't see Becca nor Izzy's parents throughout this entire film, and it would have been at the very least have Izzy's mother be like the little sister of the brother that lit the candle in the first place, something like that, so you can have some kind of some connection. Because like I said, it's not like those original kids were bad and they didn't really like make a very big standout, or at least I don't know, they didn't have like a particular thing that hooked me into them, because most people find them relatively boring or uninteresting, but they kind of mid for me. It was like they're not like terrible, but it's like they didn't really make a big impression, because like maybe it's because they got like overshadowed by the charm from these sisters. But anyway, uh, uh, the you see this like these Tennessee sisters chasing these girls. Eventually Cassie comes into play after like once Becca and Izzy find out like the Tennessee sisters need the blood of their enemy, which was the mayor. They gotta warn Cassie, or at least they had, because Cassie was having like a party at her house, because without while the father was out, she's having like a big old rager at her house. While the father was running like a Halloween festival, they couldn't get a hold uh, of Cassie directly, but they had no choice. Becca decided to, okay, I had to get they can't rely on Cassie to come rescue them or get her father to safety, but they decide, okay, the only other person they can call was Cassie's father. In order to get him out of the festival, because that's where the witch was going, they had to like drop the dime on her friend. It's like, oh, Cassie's having a party at your house, you better go, just to avoid the witches finding him. And this is where you see like, I don't mind this because he obviously got to have the Sanderson sisters doing musical numbers here and mind controlling the some of the residents, but they didn't go with the classic song "I Put a Spell on You," which is kind of weird. That was like an odd choice. They went with something else. It's like another classic rock song or whatever, uh, but it's just like it didn't hit the same way as like "I Put a Spell on You." That's what I was kind of expecting. And it's like I like to see this. I like the part where the Sessa Sisters goes on the stage and you see all these like, costume contests like you would see in real life. And it's like, of course, the town doesn't realize these are the real sisters, and they just getting like flattered by their legacy because they left such an impact. They had like a massive legacy, and it's like I wish it was a little bit more explored. These women finding out how like they're they become such icons, that they're beloved, and it's like just like in real life, they're like a beloved icons, just like with Jack Skellington, or and Sally. It's just like, and like the Addams family is like they're like pillars. They just scream Halloween. They signal the uh, the first, not only Halloween but the first day of October. Like Halloween season is arrived. I'm getting my costume ready. And like decorations galore with these icons. I just wish they kind of explore a little bit of that. But they might control the town to find the mayor, which they did, but it's like the Sanderson sisters don't come calling because as soon as they find him, the spell is broken, and the mayor thought it was like a flash mob kind of thing. This is where the idiocy comes into play. He doesn't get his little caramel apple, which, speaking of, mm, mm. Get yourself a candy apple or a taffy apple or something like that. This is like fall season. I typically engorge myself with these various taffy apples or candy apples. Because they harvest all the apples, getting this stuff ready. Like, I gorge on them every October. Just like in the summer when the cherries are picked, I engorge myself on a lot of cherries during the summer. But anyway, uh, once the Sanderson sisters capture Cassie, they go back to the middle of the sacred forest to complete the ritual. They blast, Gilbert off into like the end of the forest, and they start to spell, which, no pun intended. Becca, uh, Izzy starts to know Becca as they looking on from afar. Becca is starting to show signs of magic swirling around her hands, which I'm a little confused on where this kind of sparked. Yeah, she like into this kind of stuff, but she never like at no point earlier in the film. Like, yeah, they used like those little herb things to light up to break the curse that held them trapped in the cottage. But it's like, okay, you didn't lay any kind of groundwork that you might be at least a Wiccan and you're, uh, are used to like channeling things, or at least show any kind of hints that you're like, meddling with this type of stuff while growing up. None of that. You just happen to have it, or at least somehow you just be able to wield magic. And it's like you shouldn't just have it. That part was kind of confusing. Okay, like you just like it's what you gotta ooh. Now the curse is lifted. And it's like, okay, like this is the first time you notice something that it's like magic based, because there's no guarantee that that was gonna work. Not everybody can just wield magic like that. Just because you have like the ingredients doesn't mean that it's gonna work for you. Uh, and just like this, like, oh, this is like revving up now. Your magic powers is like manifesting. They treat it like it's like a mutant power because he's like 16 or something like that. But uh uh Winifred, you see this something like you never seen before. At least two things you never seen before in the original. That I was shocked that they took it this way. One, she the book is almost like Mjolnir in like Marvel, where it's like typically Thor wields it, but somebody who also is worthy can wield it, like Captain America or Beta Ray Bill uh, or Jane Foster, to where like it'll be called upon if they so wish it. But the book goes directly towards Becca when she starts, because there's been a couple of times where like Winifred just berates her book that from the original she cherishes like a child, and it's like wow. And then you see like moments where the book is sweating when it's nervous, or you see it shed a tear. So that has never been explored before, and I was like, oh, that's pretty nifty. But then also you see the moment when they gain more power to avoid being destroyed during the sunrise. uh Sarah, for a brief moment, Sarah, like, after she getting like talked down to by Winifred, and Sarah just like like says lightning towards her sister. It's like, I am not what's the word? I'm pretty sure she said stupid. It's like, I am not stupid. I was like, oh my god, they turn on each other, or at least, you know, it's like Sarah and the sisters getting like a more of like a backbone and standing up to her older one. That's because they pretty much like the Three Stooges, and it's like watching Curly stand up to Mo for the first time, but she quickly backs down. So, but it was like a nifty moment, but I kind of wish they kind of really lean into that a bit. Maybe cause like maybe like a bit of an infighting between the three, and because typically like in like the TV show Charmed, if like the witches coven, or at least the sisters three, if there's infighting amongst each other and there's no unity, then their power is broken or are very less, uh, because they fight amongst each other. And I kind of wish they kind of went with that route, but since they accessed the forbidden spell, uh, Becca points out, well, there's a price to be paid because you should pay attention with what the book was trying to tell you, and the warning. There's a price to be paid, and the price is wherever it is you cherish. And this is why we get the little prelude in the movie to show these sisters' unity, despite Winifred, berating them every so often. She loves her sisters more than anything in the world. She's wouldn't allow her sister to be taken away from her, even as like a young child. And so, almost like Avengers Infinity War, you see like these her sisters dusting away, and it's like, did they just do like an Avengers Infinity War in Hocus Pocus 2? Because they just turned to dust and they kind of like, Winifred, bye bye. Like, and then it's like, you might as well, if somebody else doing like a review and they insert a clip from Infinity War, it's just like you see these sisters uh, dusting away. Insert Tom Holland Spider-Man, like, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. And it's like I've really tried. Insert Doctor Strange. It was the only way. because that would be funny because they pretty much did the exact same doggone thing. But then great uh range of emotion when it comes to Bette Midler in this role because this is like 'cause she's always been like a hard uh, uh antagonist. But this is probably the first time she actually felt something, and it's like you know, she got what she wanted, but it's like she does not want to lose her sisters. Like, damn the powers, I want my sisters. I want my sisters, but can you help me? She begging Becca and her friends, who now are like a new coven, and like they they have the book give them the spell that they need to reunite them. So they cast the spell. The sisters don't return, but Becca mentions like, oh, the spell doesn't bring them to you; it sends you to them. And because like the emotion, like you feel for Winifred in this moment. The way like the dialogue is read by her is so gripping. I love it. You never gotten this from the first movie. Because because like yeah, it's goofy comedy, but there's no like moment of like good drama to balance it out. And this kind of like have that. This gets that kind of moment. But when she like gets that notion, like I'll be sent to my sisters, I'm fine with that. And it's like she ends with sisters, and she fades away, and it's like that's a hell of a way to exit. And so Billy dusts away, and Gilbert promised him because apparently, because you see a young Billy back in Old Salem mentions that he only kissed Winifred one time, but Winifred spread the rumor that they had like a whole entire relationship, which apparently was not true, but that rumor kind of spread into modern day, and Gilbert, decides like, I will honor you, Billy, and I will tell your real story. That you only shared one kiss, that was it, there was no relationship. And Billy fades away to finally rest in peace. Uh, And then the movie ends with like the three girls reconciling, and then they start doing that the Sanderson sisters kind of like march, and of course they're giggling because they know it's goofy, but that was kind of charming. But then the mother witch shows up to the Sanderson sisters at the beginning of the movie as like a raven or something, and at the end of this, you see like a raven following them, and then there's like a post credit scene which I did not expect of the Sanderson sisters seemingly in hell doing like another musical number, and like another thing where like a black flame is lit again, kind of signaling another possible return of the sisters, which I'm on a fence about because I think this is a good movie. I highly recommend Hocus Pocus 2. I love this movie despite my craziness with like the mayor and the jock, and the confusingness of why she just so good at that magic out of the freaking nowhere. Just because she's into this stuff doesn't mean you should be, you know, you know, uh, all of a sudden, oh, I'm a magic user. All of a sudden, besides those three things, this is a very good movie. But I think you're pushing it now. Do not promise like a third film because I honestly, I imagine a lot of people are loving this movie right now. I haven't checked other people's reviews, but I imagine that's the mindset because I definitely dig in this movie. You know, I think I would rate it, put it into like um, uh, B plus to A minus, somewhere around that general vicinity. Uh, but you're gonna be pushing it if you're trying to get like a third movie out of this, even if it's maybe like a couple of years later. You never know what's going on with these three actresses. So maybe, well, I don't know how you can do another Hocus Pocus movie without these iconic three actresses. Because yeah, you can do another story with these three young girls, but they wouldn't offer the same flair as Bette Midler, Kathleen Majimi, and Sarah Jessica Parker. So that's just my take on it. I also want to note before I end the video, and I do not crucify me on this. This is just my personal opinion. Okay, and there's no shade on the actress whatsoever. I think she's a great actress. Sarah Jessica Parker. I think Hocus Pocus 1 is probably the first time I actually seen her in anything. I'm pretty sure that is the case in my mind. But after that, I've seen her in a couple of rom-com films and stuff like that years after the fact. But honestly, Hocus Pocus 1 and 2, my personal opinion, it's probably the hottest she's ever looked in. Not that she's ugly. She's not ugly. But it is just that it's something about this particular character she plays as really kind of like, I don't know. It's just like, something might have, maybe it's the makeup or just the dress or maybe the combination of the two. But it brings out something to where this is like the hottest Sarah Jessica Parker ever looked. And it's like, honestly, my favorite role she's ever been in. But man, I don't know what it is about this particular character that she's just like stunning. And I love all three, but she is like my favorite. And I love this awesome part of that because even though I saw it in the trailer, it still gives me a laugh when they was looking for these girls inside Cassie's house, and she tells, her sisters to spread out, and Sarah just started it like to spread out, and it's like that is just brilliant comedy. It's like, okay, I kudos to that one because like I did not expect that. And it's like that got a laugh out of me. And you see this Bette Midler just looking like, it's like, stop it. Knock it off. Oh my God, that got me. But yeah, uh, uh, let me know what you guys think of Hocus Pocus 2. If you've seen it already, because it's on Disney Plus. I imagine it's going to do great numbers, but with these streaming services, you don't get those kind of hard numbers in the theaters like you would typically. But I would have paid to see this in the theater. Unlike Buzz Lightyear, which I didn't go see at all, but I was having high hopes it would do well, but it did not. That is kind of movie they kind of, just like with like Turning Red, I kind of wish they kind of flip-flopped it to where Turning Red and Hocus Pocus 2 should be in the theaters because I want people to come in droves dressed as the Sanderson sisters, coming to watch this film and like just getting the camaraderie and laughing at the same stuff and all that stuff. I would have definitely paid to go to the theaters to see this. What they should do is do some kind of special screening to put this out in a movie theaters for people who actually want, maybe something close to Halloween. They have like a special movie matinee or something like that, and they put up Hocus Pocus 1 and 2 maybe back to back, and make a whole thing out of it in theaters. And like, cause I would go, I was pay money to go to see like Hocus Pocus 1 and 2 back to back in the movie theater, get some kind of special popcorn bucket or mug or something like that, because like I think everybody would enjoy that. I really wish they considered something like that. But leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of this film. Definitely hit that notification bell, the like button. Follow me on my various channels like Twitch, where I play video games and stream, as well as YouTube, as I do movie reviews, comic book reviews, TV show reviews. And stay tuned. In a few minutes, I'll do a spoiler review of Danny Phantom Season 1. And I will go through the second and third season later on in the month of October. Because I've been sitting on that for a while. I've been waiting for October to do this. But yeah, I will see you guys in a few minutes. Peace.